Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I came with a prophetic burden. There are battles you are fighting that your eyes cannot see. There are enemies smiling with you in public, but stabbing you in secret. There are powers celebrating your appearance, yet resisting your destiny. Hear me. Life is spiritual, and until God shines his light, you may be dining with your destroyers unknowingly. Hidden enemies are more dangerous than visible ones, because what you do not see has the greatest potential to harm you without warning. A visible enemy allows you to prepare, defend, and strategize against their attack. But a hidden one quietly operates in the blind spots of your life. They often camouflage themselves as allies, confidants, or supporters, making it difficult to discern their true motives. Because of this disguise, they gain access to sensitive areas of your life that a declared enemy would never reach. Their proximity makes their betrayal more devastating and their sabotage more effective. A hidden enemy uses the privilege of closeness to gather information. They know your strengths, weaknesses, dreams, and vulnerabilities. Unlike an outsider, they can calculate their moves with precision, striking at the most fragile points of your journey. Their words may sound like encouragement, but their hearts harbor envy and resentment. They clap when you rise publicly, but secretly celebrate when you stumble privately. The danger is not in what they say openly, but in what they whisper in secret places, in prayers turned into curses, and in support turned into silent sabotage. Because hidden enemies thrive in secrecy, they create delays without explanation. Opportunities slip away not because of incompetence, but because someone close is manipulating outcomes behind the scenes. These are the people who may recommend you to your face, but discredit you when the real conversation happens in your absence. They are the ones who plant seeds of doubt in the minds of others, blocking doors you never even knew were open to you. Their danger lies in the invisibility of their operations. By the time their presence is revealed, significant damage may already be done. In relationships, hidden enemies are the ones who pretend loyalty while nurturing jealousy. They stand with you in celebration, but harbor bitterness about your progress. Their words are carefully chosen to appear supportive, yet they subtly inject fear, hesitation, or discouragement into your spirit. A visible enemy confronts you directly, but a hidden enemy influences you silently, bending your decisions away from destiny without you realizing it. They know how to poison wells without leaving fingerprints. Spiritual warfare is especially intensified by hidden enemies because they often engage in unseen battles. They may project friendliness in the physical realm while working in the spiritual realm to limit your progress. Through negative declarations, manipulative prayers, or occult practices, they establish barriers that hinder breakthrough. Because their hands are unseen, you may misinterpret delays and failures as ordinary challenges rather than targeted attacks. The invisible hand is always more difficult to fight than the visible one. Another danger of hidden enemies is that they distort discernment. Their outward appearance of loyalty tricks you into lowering your guard. You share secrets, resources, and strategies with them, not realizing you are equipping your own adversary. A visible enemy cannot betray because they never earned your trust, but a hidden one betrays from within the circle of trust. History and scripture repeatedly show that betrayals that changed the course of destiny did not come from strangers but from insiders. Judas was not outside the circle of Jesus. He was seated at the table. Delilah was not a declared Philistine warrior. She was the one Samson trusted in intimacy. The destructive power of hidden enemies is multiplied because they take advantage of timing. They know when to act for maximum effect. They wait until the moment of greatest vulnerability or opportunity before unveiling their plans. A visible enemy may attack at any time, but a hidden one chooses the exact season when your guard is down and your progress is most fragile. This makes their betrayal a double-edged sword. It wounds you personally and delays your destiny corporately. Hidden enemies thrive on the comfort of your ignorance. They exploit the fact that you assume everyone close to you has your best interest at heart. While you celebrate companionship, they orchestrate confusion. While you rest in trust, they plant traps. Their strength is in your blindness, and their danger is in the trust you willingly extend to them. Because of this, hidden enemies remain one of the greatest threats to success, progress, and destiny fulfillment. Life is spiritual because the visible world is governed by invisible realities that shape outcomes long before they manifest. Every action in the physical realm is first influenced by forces, decisions, and activities in the unseen realm. Just as a tree's fruit is determined by the roots hidden underground, the events in human existence are controlled by foundations that are not visible to the natural eye. Ignoring the spiritual dimension of life is like treating symptoms without addressing the root cause. One may keep struggling with the surface while the source remains untouched. The battles people fight daily are rarely physical in origin. Sickness, setbacks, delays, and disappointments often have spiritual undertones. What looks like coincidence may actually be a pattern orchestrated by unseen influences. A person may work hard, have skills, and possess opportunities, yet nothing seems to work. Another may appear less skilled, yet doors open for them consistently. This imbalance is not always explained by logic, but by spiritual dynamics that favor one person and resist another. Life is not fair by effort alone. It is aligned by spiritual laws and forces. Culture, traditions, and even personal habits often carry spiritual weight. Ancestral covenants, spoken words, and generational patterns influence lives without permission. Someone may inherit wealth, talent, or favor through family lineage, while another inherits battles, afflictions, or limitations. These are not accidents, but the outworking of spiritual laws set in motion long before a person was born. The spiritual realm holds records, covenants, and decrees that continue to speak into time until they are addressed or altered by higher authority. Dreams are a strong reminder that life is spiritual. In sleep, the body rests, but the spirit remains active, engaging in experiences that sometimes reveal warnings, attacks, or instructions. A person may wake up from a dream and find that it influences their day, health, or relationships. Many breakthroughs and battles begin in dreams before showing up in reality. What manifests as confusion, delay, or even sudden opportunities often has its roots in what transpired spiritually. Prayer is proof that life is spiritual. If everything could be solved by human effort, then prayer would be unnecessary. Yet history and personal testimonies show that when people engage in prayer, outcomes shift in ways that effort alone could not achieve. Prayer connects the visible to the invisible, drawing power, wisdom, and intervention from a higher realm. It changes atmospheres, breaks unseen barriers, and enforces divine will. The fact that unseen words spoken in faith can produce visible change is evidence that life does not operate only on natural principles. Discernment is required because not all that glitters is gold, and not every closed door is ordinary. Discernment reveals when opportunities are divine and when they are traps. It unveils when a setback is a test or when it is an attack. Without a spiritual perspective, people often misinterpret seasons of their lives. They may call what is warfare laziness, or what is delay an ordinary process. Life requires the eyes of the Spirit to interpret the true meaning of events. Relationships also prove that life is spiritual. Two people may meet by chance, yet the connection alters destiny permanently. Helpers, mentors, And even enemies are often divinely or spiritually orchestrated. Betrayals do not just happen. They are influenced by deeper forces. Friendships and marriages can either accelerate destiny or truncate it, depending on the spiritual roots behind them. The spiritual dimension of human connections determines whether relationships are channels of blessing or of destruction. The authority of words demonstrates the spiritual nature of life. Words are not mere sounds. They are carriers of power that influence realities. Blessings and curses spoken generations ago continue to shape families and nations today. Declarations made in faith release creative power into existence, while negative words establish patterns of defeat. The invisible impact of spoken words is undeniable evidence that life is not controlled by sight alone, but by spiritual law. Every culture, every religion, and every belief system acknowledges in one form or another that there is more to life than the visible. This universal recognition shows that human existence is connected to something beyond the senses. Miracles, answered prayers, unexplained coincidences, and even spiritual attacks all converge on the truth that life cannot be fully explained by logic or science. The spiritual realm governs the physical, and until people learn to align with spiritual laws and authority, they remain victims of forces they cannot see. Darkness operates through secrecy because concealment is its greatest weapon. What remains hidden cannot be confronted, and what is not exposed cannot be dealt with. Darkness thrives in places where truth is absent and ignorance prevails. The unseen strategies of evil gain their strength not from power alone, but from the ability to remain undetected. When something is covered in secrecy, it allows manipulation, deception, and destruction to flourish without resistance. The first strategy of darkness is deception. Secrecy enables falsehood to appear as truth and danger to appear as safety. Many lives are trapped not because the enemy is stronger, but because they do not know what is truly happening behind the scenes. Lies are powerful only when the truth is hidden. Darkness blinds people to reality, creating illusions that keep them walking in circles. It whispers half-truths, masks real intentions, and distracts attention from the real source of the problem. Secrecy becomes the shield that protects deception until it matures into destruction. Darkness also uses secrecy to manipulate relationships. Betrayals are always birthed in secrecy. A friend may smile openly but plot destruction privately. A colleague may appear supportive yet work against you in places where you have no visibility. The secrecy of hidden agendas makes them dangerous because the victim often trusts the very person who is engineering their downfall. The real danger is not always from declared enemies, but from those operating behind closed doors, using secrecy to conceal motives until it is too late. Generational battles also reveal how darkness operates through secrecy. Families often suffer from cycles of failure, poverty, or affliction without understanding the root cause. Unknown covenants, hidden rituals, and unspoken histories continue to dictate outcomes across generations. Because these foundations are shrouded in secrecy, people assume their struggles are natural, when in reality they are spiritual legacies. Until truth exposes these hidden roots, the pattern continues unchecked, binding people to destinies that were never theirs. Secrecy is also the breeding ground for fear. What is unknown often intimidates more than what is seen. Darkness hides its operations to keep people in a constant state of uncertainty. A person cannot fight what they do not recognize, so fear paralyzes them into silence and inaction. The enemy's threats echo louder in secrecy, because when light shines, fear loses its grip. Darkness keeps its power by ensuring people remain in ignorance and confusion, uncertain about what is true and what is false. Spiritual attacks gain strength from secrecy. Many battles manifest in subtle ways. consistent failures, strange delays, recurring sicknesses, but their real origin is hidden. Darkness ensures that people treat symptoms while never addressing causes. Doctors may treat a sickness, employers may address poor performance, families may attempt solutions, yet the true root remains untouched because it is covered in secrecy. The longer the root remains hidden, the stronger its hold becomes. Secrecy also fuels manipulation of systems and institutions. Corruption thrives in hidden places where records are concealed, decisions are made in secret, and accountability is absent. Darkness ensures that lies are protected, that documents are hidden, and that truth is buried so injustice can prevail. In every sphere of life, from politics to personal dealings, secrecy allows evil to thrive without exposure. Once the light of truth shines, corruption begins to collapse. Even in personal lives, secrecy is the ally of sin. Wrong habits, addictions, and destructive choices grow stronger when hidden. The fear of exposure keeps people bound to chains that would lose their power if brought into the open. Darkness convinces individuals to remain silent, to keep struggles private, and to conceal mistakes because secrecy guarantees bondage. Confession and exposure bring healing, but silence and secrecy keep the cycle alive. The ultimate goal of secrecy in darkness is to delay deliverance. As long as a problem remains hidden, it cannot be confronted with truth, prayer, or wisdom. Exposure is often the beginning of breakthrough because light breaks the power of secrecy. Until then, darkness continues to manipulate, deceive, and destroy from the shadows, proving that its greatest strength lies not in open confrontation, but in hidden operations. Divine exposure is a weapon because what is revealed can be confronted, and what is uncovered can no longer manipulate from the shadows. Darkness thrives on secrecy, but when God shines his light, the hidden intentions, plots, and schemes of the enemy lose their power. Exposure is not just about revelation. It is a form of spiritual warfare that weakens the grip of deception. When the truth comes to light, the enemy is stripped of his disguise, and strategies that once operated in silence are dismantled by visibility. One of the reasons divine exposure is powerful is that it reveals hidden enemies. Many times, opposition does not come from declared adversaries, but from people who wear the mask of friendship. Betrayal is only possible when someone trusted chooses to become an enemy in disguise. Without exposure, a person continues to embrace those who are secretly undermining them. But when God exposes the pretender, discernment rises, and the person can separate destiny helpers from destiny destroyers. Exposure protects progress by unveiling the true intentions of those around you. Divine exposure also breaks cycles of deception. Lies can control people for years if the truth remains hidden. A person may believe a false identity, accept limitations, or carry guilt for things they never caused, simply because deception was never confronted with truth. When God exposes the reality behind the mask, those lies lose their authority. The light of God brings clarity, and clarity dismantles manipulation. People cannot be enslaved once they know the truth, because truth confronts and cancels the power of lies. Another dimension of divine exposure is the unveiling of secret covenants and foundations. Families often suffer from recurring problems, poverty, barrenness, sickness, or failure, without understanding the spiritual agreements made by ancestors. These covenants remain powerful because they are hidden. When God exposes them, people can renounce and break them, replacing them with new covenants through prayer and faith. Exposure does not only reveal the existence of a problem, but provides the opportunity for deliverance and restoration. Exposure is also a weapon because it frustrates the timing of the enemy. Many plots are designed to strike at specific seasons of vulnerability, during opportunities, transitions, or moments of celebration. But when God exposes the plan ahead of time, the enemy loses the advantage of surprise. A person warned in advance is a person prepared for battle. Divine exposure interrupts demonic schedules, scattering their plans before they manifest. This is why dreams, visions, and prophetic warnings are often given before a major event. They serve as divine tools of exposure to disarm the enemy. Divine exposure works in the realm of relationships by protecting destiny alignments. Wrong partnerships can destroy years of labor if they are not discerned. Many people have lost opportunities because of misplaced trust, entering into alliances that drained rather than multiplied them. When God exposes the true spirit behind a relationship, it saves a person from wasted time and unnecessary battles. Exposure ensures that those who walk with you are truly for you, and those secretly against you are revealed and removed. Exposure is also a weapon in breaking the hold of sin and shame. Hidden struggles thrive in secrecy, but when God brings them into the light, they can be confronted and overcome. Sin loses its grip when confessed and renounced, because exposure brings accountability and deliverance. The enemy thrives on silence, convincing people to hide their battles. But divine exposure shatters that silence and brings healing. Injustice and oppression in societies are defeated when divine exposure takes place. Corruption, manipulation, and hidden agendas collapse when truth emerges. Documents come to light, secrets are revealed, and lies are dismantled. What once operated behind closed doors is dragged into the open, and justice begins to prevail. God often raises voices, evidence, or circumstances to expose hidden systems of oppression so that freedom can be established. The greatest strength of divine exposure lies in its ability to turn hidden darkness into visible targets. You cannot fight what you do not see. But once light reveals it, strategies can be applied, prayers can be directed, and authority can be exercised. Exposure is not just information, it is empowerment. It takes the battle from uncertainty into precision, allowing destiny to advance without being hindered by hidden enemies or unseen covenants. Divine exposure is a weapon because it dismantles the mystery that empowers darkness and replaces it with truth that sets free. God not only exposes but destroys, because his justice is not complete until what has been revealed is also judged. Exposure removes the veil of deception, but destruction removes the power and influence of the enemy. If enemies are only exposed but left active, they can regroup, re-strategize, and attack again. God goes beyond revelation to execution, ensuring that the plots of darkness are permanently dismantled. This dimension of divine intervention guarantees not just temporary relief, but lasting victory. Biblical history shows that exposure was always followed by destruction. Pharaoh's resistance was exposed through the plagues, but his reign of terror ended only when his army was drowned in the Red Sea. Haman's hatred for Mordecai was exposed, but justice was fulfilled when he was hanged on the very gallows he prepared. Jezebel's wickedness was revealed through the prophets, but her influence ended only when she was thrown down and devoured. In each case, exposure brought awareness, but destruction secured deliverance. God does not stop at showing his people their enemies. He ensures their power to harm is completely broken. This principle applies to spiritual warfare. Many battles are rooted in unseen covenants, curses, or manipulations. When God exposes their existence, it is not just for information, but for confrontation. Light shines to reveal the altar, but fire falls to consume it. A person may discover through dreams or discernment that enemies are at work, yet the victory comes when those enemies are stripped of authority and destroyed. Exposure without destruction leaves the believer vulnerable, but exposure followed by destruction enforces freedom. God's nature as a consuming fire explains why he destroys. His holiness does not coexist with evil, and his covenant of love demands the protection of his children. When the enemy is exposed, divine judgment flows to erase their influence. This destruction is not limited to individuals, but extends to systems, cycles, and strongholds. For example, generational patterns of poverty or sickness may be exposed, but God goes further by destroying the root causes so that future generations walk free. His work is not half done. He completes it by eradicating the source of bondage. Destruction in this context does not always mean physical elimination. Sometimes it means the end of influence, the collapse of authority, or the dismantling of structures. A person once oppressed by fear may have that fear exposed, but God destroys its grip by granting boldness. A demonic attack may be revealed in a dream, but God destroys it by nullifying its effect in reality. A corrupt system may be uncovered, but God destroys it by raising voices, evidence, and justice that bring it down. Exposure reveals the problem. Destruction provides the solution. This dual action of exposing and destroying also reveals the mercy of God. If he only destroyed without exposing, people would not learn the lessons of discernment. If he only exposed without destroying, people would live in constant anxiety. By doing both, he teaches wisdom while securing deliverance. The believer learns to recognize the patterns of the enemy, while also resting in the assurance that those enemies will not survive to fight another day. This balance of revelation and judgment is the foundation of lasting freedom. The destruction of enemies after exposure also carries a prophetic significance. It demonstrates to others that God defends his own. When Pharaoh's army was destroyed, it was not just deliverance for Israel, but a testimony to the nations. When Goliath was not only exposed as vulnerable, but destroyed by David, the victory shifted the destiny of Israel. When enemies are exposed and destroyed, it strengthens faith, silences opposition, and glorifies God's power. God not only exposes but destroys, because exposure alone does not guarantee victory. It is the destruction of evil that ensures the future is secure. The enemy's plans must not only be revealed, but also terminated. The power behind afflictions must not only be identified, but consumed. The hands raised against destiny must not only be unmasked, but broken. Through this, believers are not just made aware of battles, but guaranteed triumph. God's involvement ensures that what once threatened their lives becomes a testimony of his supremacy. Because his justice does not stop at revelation, but extends to total annihilation of darkness. Prayer is the key to deliverance, because it is the channel that connects humanity with the authority and power of God. Deliverance is not achieved by human strength, intelligence, or effort alone, but by divine intervention. Prayer opens the door for that intervention, allowing heavenly power to confront earthly and spiritual challenges. Without prayer, people remain limited to natural solutions for battles that are deeply spiritual. With prayer, the invisible is engaged, and strongholds that cannot be touched by human hands are broken by divine force. Prayer is powerful because it acknowledges dependence on God. Deliverance comes when a person admits that certain battles are beyond human control. By praying, they invite the one who is limitless into their situation. This act of surrender releases God's authority to step in and confront enemies, chains, and patterns that human effort cannot manage. Many remain in bondage because they fight spiritual battles with natural tools, forgetting that prayer is the bridge between weakness and divine strength. Prayer is not just communication, it is a transaction of power that shifts control from man to God. One reason prayer brings deliverance is that it exposes the hidden. When people pray, light shines on the areas of darkness that were previously concealed. Prayer sharpens discernment, unveils hidden enemies, and reveals spiritual roots of physical problems. Deliverance often begins with exposure, and prayer is the weapon that initiates this exposure. Through prayer, dreams may come that reveal the source of battles. Through prayer, scriptures may be quickened that expose lies. Through prayer, wisdom is released to recognize traps and snares. What is hidden in secrecy cannot remain hidden when intense prayer is raised. Prayer also enforces divine authority. Deliverance is not only about seeing the problem, but about commanding it to break. Jesus said in Matthew 18:18 that whatever is bound on earth is bound in heaven, and whatever is loosed on earth is loosed in heaven. This authority is exercised through prayer. Chains are broken because prayer invokes the higher law of God's word against the lower laws of oppression. Curses are reversed, covenants are nullified, and spiritual legalities are overturned, because prayer enforces the authority of Christ, who has already secured victory. Another dimension of prayer in deliverance is its ability to summon angelic intervention. Throughout scripture, prayer triggered the release of angels who brought freedom. When Peter was imprisoned in Acts 12, the church prayed, and an angel came to break his chains and open the prison doors. This shows that prayer activates heavenly forces that intervene in earthly battles. People who ignore prayer cut themselves off from divine reinforcements assigned to secure their liberty. Prayer ensures that the believer is never alone in the fight. Heaven itself joins the battle. Prayer also transforms the one praying. Deliverance is not only about being rescued from external enemies, but also about overcoming internal weaknesses. Habits, addictions, and sinful tendencies lose their power in the atmosphere of consistent prayer. Prayer builds inner strength, purifies the heart, and aligns the will with God. A person who prays persistently becomes less vulnerable to temptations that once enslaved them. Deliverance is sustained when the inner man is strengthened, and prayer is the tool that empowers this transformation. In addition, prayer destroys fear. Fear is one of the greatest weapons of bondage, keeping people silent and passive. Prayer shifts focus from the size of the enemy to the greatness of God. As faith rises through prayer, fear loses its grip and boldness takes its place. Many remain trapped because fear convinces them that freedom is impossible, but prayer changes perspective, planting courage in the heart to claim victory. Deliverance requires not only God's intervention, but also the believer's faith to walk into freedom, and prayer is the fuel that produces this faith. Deliverance through prayer is not a one-time event, but a continuous reality. The enemy seeks to return when vigilance is lost, but a life of prayer keeps the atmosphere charged with God's presence. Prayer maintains the freedom already secured, ensuring that no hidden chain is reforged. It establishes a covering, a shield, and a wall of fire around the believer. By praying consistently, one does not only experience deliverance, but also walks in sustained liberty, proving that prayer is indeed the master key to breaking every chain.